will be seated.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be playing
It
PUBG.
is my hope, it is truly my hope, that Judge Kavanaugh will share that same hope in rebuilding
I'm going to start the race.
public confidence that he will strive for that ideal every day.
My mom is talking on the
I
phone.
hope that he will be that neutral arbiter, the umpire who only calls the balls and the strikes, that he will be that force for stability. I believe that Judge Kavanaugh is a good man. He's a good man.
So look
He's clearly a little judge. But with my conscience, because that's how I have to vote. At the end of the day,
it's not even loaded.
I could not conclude that he is the right person for the court at this time. And this has been agonizing.
You're talking about Dad, right?
For me, with this decision, it is as hard a choice, probably as close a call as any that I can ever remember. And I hope and I pray
That's medical issues, and
we don't find ourselves in this situation again.
Yeah,
But I'm worried. I am really worried that this becomes
So what's
the
wrong?
new normal, where we find new and
What's
even
friend?
more
Your long-term
creative
friend
ways
from a long time
to
ago?
tear one another down.
Used to be in the car you with or
Good
something?
people are just going to say
That guy.
it's not worth it.
How much do they pay?
I'm looking at some of the comments, the statements that are being made
Yeah.
against me, against my good friend, my dear friend from Maine. The hateful,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. You just told me about that one.
aggressive, truly,
Yeah.
truly awful.
Oh, yeah. You don't need something like that.
So many
Right.
are acting now.
Yeah.
It's not to be. This is not who we are.
That's what I'm saying. We don't need to bring that kind of mojo on us. Yeah,
These
exactly.
are children.
Because it's what, like they say, the only time you can get away with something is if you are the other person's dead. You know, if you could bring someone in on your crime.
As we move forward, again through a very difficult time in this country,
My log should be all right. They fix them for me all the time.
I want to urge us to a place where we are able to engage in that civil discourse, which is what the city is supposed to be all about. We are able to show respect for one another's views and differences, and that hard
No
vote
shit.
is taken.
Oh,
There is a level of respect for the decision that each of us makes. And there's another thing that I do hope. And again, I'll refer to my friend from Maine. And I will know that if there has been a silver lining in these bigger weeks, which quite honestly remains to be seen.
Quite know what I was doing, but I know I was busy.
I do think what
I
we
hate
have
the
seen
side
is
game.
a recognition
Actually, Jamie's staying here, so I gotta make it look like I cook all the time.
recognition by both sides that we must do more to
She
protect
does? How does she know? What do
and
you mean?
prevent sexual assault
Last night I made spaghetti. I don't know.
the victims
Made spaghetti.
of these assaults.
Got spaghetti.
There has been
Nobody touched that. Keep saving a little bit of it, but it's sitting in there. I'll probably just stick it in the freezer.
there has been
Come home and take it again.
an outpouring
No, they're gonna tear up that meal.
discussion, conversation,
Or anything.
fears, tears, frustration, rage.
For
There
you?
is an emotion
Okay, I will
that
send
has
you
been
some.
unleashed in these recent
The least I
weeks.
could do. Send you a picture of Tisha.
And these are discussions that we need to have as
flatten that bitch
to
out.
have
Cut
these
cut up the onions and bell peppers really, really tiny. Got the actually I got the
these
onions and from the church, you know, from the farmer's garden. Bell pepper from Aunt Gill's garden. So it's all got fresh vegetables in it. No preservatives, so it'll be organic.
My
Then I
mom
took
needs
the
to
ground
stop
beef
talking.
and mixed it all together, you know, and flattened it out real flat, and then took some honey ham and layered it in the middle, and took this white cheddar cheese that I got and chunked it, big thick chunks in the middle, and rolled it up and sealed it. Oh Lord, yes, buddy.
As they have shared with me,
No bacon.
that they have been
Heavy bacon.
truly surprised, many stunned by what they are learning.
Oh, the vegetables?
Of this.
It's the mixed vegetables. It has broccoli, cauliflower, corn, peppers.
In Alaska, from presiding officer,
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let me let you go so I can get some seconds.
Incredibly.
I love you, baby.
It is not something
Call tomorrow.
that we say we'll get
All right, bye.
to tomorrow. We've heard those voices. We've heard those voices, and I hope that we have all learned something, that we owe it to the victims of sexual assault to do more and to do better and to do it now with them. Mr. President, I'm going to close. Thank you, but I truly hope that we can be at that place where we can move forward in a manner that shows greater respect, greater comedy. We owe it to the people of America to return to a less rancorous confirmation process. In the spirit of that comedy, again, well, I voted no on cloture today, and I will be a no tomorrow. I will, in the final tally, be asked to be recorded as present, and I do this.
See you guys in a minute game.
Because
Ugh.
that we're going to be
Okay, I'm
voting.
in this
He's
game.
going to be walking his daughter down the aisle, and he won't be present to vote. And so I have extended this as a courtesy to my friend. It will not change the outcome of the vote, but I do hope that it reminds us that we can take very small steps to be gracious with one another, and maybe those small, gracious steps can lead to more. But I know that as hard as these matters are that we deal with, we're humans, we have family that we love, we don't spend near enough time with them, and making sure that we can do one small thing to make that family a little bit better is better way for tomorrow. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor, and thank you.
And good evening. That was Republican Lisa Murkowski on the Senate floor giving her explanation of why she has reached the decision she has on Judge Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation. She spoke at length about the divisiveness of the process. She spoke about what survivors of sexual abuse go through. She talked about precedent cases important to her own constituents in the country. And she talked about healing. In case you missed it, here's the moment why she voted no today.
So it is high. And even in the face of the worst thing that could happen, a sexual assault allegation, even in the face of an overtly his nomination from the very get-go, before he was even named. Even in these situations, the standard is that a judge must act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the independence, integrity, and partiality of the judiciary, and shall avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety. And after the hearing that we all watched last Thursday, it became clear to me, or was becoming clearer, that appearance of impropriety has become unavoidable. And I've been deliberating, agonizing about what is fair. Is this too unfair a burden to place on somebody that is dealing with the worst, the most horrific allegations that go to your integrity, that go to everything that you are? I think we all struggle with how we would respond. But I am reminded there are only 9 seats on the bench of the highest court in the land.
Republican Lisa Murkowski joining us now, CNN political analyst Kirsten Powers, CNN political commentator and National Review editor Rich Lowry, and CNN global affairs analyst Max Boot, author of the soon-to-be-out new book, The Corrosion of Conservatism, Why I Left the Right. Kirsten, it's interesting to hear how Senator Murkowski got to know.
Right, well, the thing that she seemed to focus on the most was the judicial temperament issue, and that this is a very rarefied position in our society. Very few people ever get on the Supreme Court, even the most qualified, most brilliant, most wonderfully people with most wonderful temperaments in the world typically don't get on the Supreme Court. So there's a very, very high bar, and that's the high bar that she was holding him to, and that she says even if she understands that he would be very upset, and this is an attack that he felt was on his integrity, and an unfair attack on his integrity, that in the end you can't behave in that manner and be on the Supreme Court.
Max, I'm wondering what you make of that argument, because that's certainly something that Judge Kavanaugh tried to reframe in the op-ed that he wrote to the Wall Street Journal.
That's true. He realized, I think, that he made a serious mistake in his tone in the confirmation hearing, which was very partisan, very aggressive, not very judicious, and he tried to walk it back a little bit. But when a judge is saying, I am not a partisan, that's kind of like a president saying, I am not a crook. The fact that he's saying it kind of defeats the message that he's trying to convey. And I thought that what Senator Murkowski said was very thoughtful and made a lot of sense to me. That's basically where I am, because I was somebody like her who was prepared to support his confirmation because I thought he was superbly qualified. But then seeing the way he acted, and I understand that he got angry because he felt that he was unjustifiably accused, but nevertheless, his over-the-top partisanship, and which cast into doubt his impartiality as a judge, I think, really made me realize, wait, this is not somebody we should have in the Supreme Court, and that's what Senator Murkowski, I think, was trying to get across. But at the same time, I think, I have to admit, it was a close call because he was well qualified. The charges against him were not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think Senator Murkowski was also right to defend Senator Collins, who I think in good faith reached a different judgment. And there's a lot of partisan anger on both sides. And so I love, Senator Murkowski's tone, which was very calm, very civil, very rational. And this is clearly something she agonized over. And that's the right way to behave. And unfortunately, not enough senators behave that way.
Were you surprised that Senator Collins ended up voting yes?
No, I thought it was really a tremendous performance by her this afternoon. There's been so much emotion in this process, people running around, personally confronting senators, yelling at them, and seeming to believe just the sheer expression of emotion should be enough to move someone to your position. And with Lisa Murkowski tonight and Susan Collins as well this afternoon, these were carefully thought out statements meant to persuade and explain their positions. And that's the appropriate way to go, and I thought Collins was especially strong. What the core allegation here is against Brett Kavanaugh, not that he got angry in a hearing when he was being accused of all sorts of crimes, but that he was guilty of a sexual assault. And she very persuasively explained how there is no independent corroboration of that, and in fact, to the extent there is evidence, the evidence cuts the wrong way. And she said, even outside the legal setting, very important norm in this country of fairness and a presumption of innocence, and when you have that, you should vote to confirm him. And I don't think Murkowski makes really any sense to say he's a good man, but I'm going to vote against him. And the process has been too rancorous, but then she's rewarding the rancor. So I'm with Collins in this one. I was proud of her this afternoon, and very, very glad that Brett Kavanaugh will all likelihood be on the Supreme Court.
Kirsten, I mean, is this now just the new normal? I mean, is this, you think, going to be the way it is moving forward?
Well, it's interesting, I don't even know what that means, unless we, unless another person comes up to the Supreme Court where there's a woman, or I think there are two very credible allegations against him who come forward. I think we've had quite a few men get onto the Supreme Court without this happening to them, so I don't know why this would be the new normal. I take real issue with a lot of things Susan Collins said. I don't think that she laid out a kind of persuasive case that none of this happened. In fact, she brought up the fact that Christine Blasey Ford can't remember who drove her home. Any trauma expert will tell you there's nothing remarkable about that you have tunnel vision, you remember the traumatic event that happened to you, but you often don't remember where you were or who drove you home. So this didn't strike me as a super thoughtful exposition on what had happened. And then also to talk about how this was a circus, if we look at the actual hearing and the actual questions that happened, there was nothing about it that was a circus-like atmosphere. The questions were difficult. It was hard. Judge Kavanaugh got very angry, but there's nothing about it that's a circus. When people say circus, they're talking about protesters. So they're basically saying, protesting, coming and expressing your dissatisfaction with the way the process is being handled is a circus-like atmosphere, and we don't want that. And I don't think that's a good message to be sending people.
Well, people chasing senators in the hallway is a circus-like atmosphere. You have senators.
I'm sorry, why should senators not be confronted in the hallway?
I'll express my opinion, then you can express yours. Personally confronting people and chasing them is circus-like. Having a senator ask what booth means in the Supreme Court hearing is absurd. And what Collins pointed out is that not only does she not remember how she got home, no one has come forward to say she drove her home, and really the only solid thing to go on in this allegation is the two witnesses that she named, one of whom is a good friend of hers. And both of those witnesses said they have no memory of this event. And in fact, the friend of hers says that she does not even know Brett Kavanaugh.
So and that she believes her. And that she believes her. And that she believes her.
That she can't confirm her account.
I mean, the talking points are just so old. It's like, this is what you guys keep doing, you keep saying that, and then you leave out the part that she says that she actually believes her. And I wrote a column about something that happened to me when I was 15 years old. I don't remember who drove me home. I don't remember where I was. Was I lying, Rich?
No,
That doesn't answer my question. Was I lying?
No, I believe you.
Why
I
was
know
I
you
not
very
lying?
well.
If I'm not lying,
But
why
when
should
someone,
you lie before I
okay,
lie?
do you want me to reply?
What's the difference?
What we have with Christine Blasey Ford is a 36-year-old memory with no independent confirmation. And if you're interested in the topic of memory, I urge you to Google Elizabeth Loftus
I already know
and
about
others who've done a lot of research in this area. And when you're interrogating your memory over time, your memory doesn't get better, it gets less reliable. So that's why contemporaneous notes, any sort of evidence would tell on her side. But in fact, to the extent we can look at anything independent, it goes the other way.
Rich, I mean, come on, let's be real here, because even the Republicans admitted that Dr. Ford was a very credible witness, and then they said sort of incredibly that even though she remembers what she remembers, it may not have been Brett Kavanaugh, even though she said she was 100% certain. I found her to be a credible witness, and frankly, I found her to be a more credible witness than Brett Kavanaugh, who I thought was fairly deceptive and evasive in his answers, did not give straightforward answers. But that said, I agree with you to the extent that her allegations are certainly not proven. I think they're credible, they're not proven, and why
It's not just they're not proven,
the reason why I ultimately could not support Brett Kavanaugh, even though I do think he's well qualified by professional experience and intellectually for the Supreme Court, is because his over-the-top rancorous partisanship, which I think will further degrade the Supreme Court and cause it to fall into even further partisan gridlock and disrepute. I mean, how on earth can Brett Kavanaugh possibly go on the court and be fair in his rulings in cases that involve both causes on one side or the other, after he is throwing his lot with the hard right, the confident right in this confirmation hearing?
He was seriously accused of being party to something.
I get the fact that he can be angry, but he went over the top, Rich. He went over the top. He admitted that he went over the top in his Wall Street Journal op-ed.
So, the reason why he was so angry and passionate is he was legitimately accused, and people took this seriously. When people pushed back against the gang rape allegation, they were accused of victim blaming. That was taken seriously. And this is a guy who's
Really, that was the focus of the hearing, Rich?
No,
Was
but
gang
so
rape?
do you believe
all you
Julie
keep
Swetnick?
talking about is the
Do you
gang
believe
rape.
Julie
It's
Swetnick?
Rather than talking about what the actual hearing was about, Christine Blasey Ford, all you want to talk about is gang rape.
It was
And that's
taken
not
seriously.
that is not
Kirsten,
what the hearing was about, and you keep
Schumer,
latching on to
Judiciary Committee
something
Democrats.
rather than talking about what actually happened, which was Christine Blasey Ford testifying.
Do you believe Julie Swetnick? Really quickly.
I don't know. I believe Christine Blasey Ford, and I find her much more credible.
You think Julie Swetnick is credible?
I don't know enough about it. I think there were some questions raised
You
about
watched
it.
that NBC interview and you think she's
Right,
credible?
that's what I'm
or might
saying.
be credible?
Is that what I just said?
So she's not credible.
Well, why are you just? I
So
just
you
answered
should
you. So why?
you
No,
should
I
be
actually
taken
just.
seriously. No
I
one
just
should-
actually
the idea
said.
that a
Please
teenage
stop
girl.
interrupting me.
Let's not speak. If Kirsten responds, then let's go.
I just said that I had questions about it. I mean, why are you twisting it into saying that I said
Because
that she
people
was
took it
credible?
seriously when it was farcical on the face of it.
I never said a word about it.
Let's
So.
end it here. I appreciate the discussion. Kirsten, thank you. Rich Lowry, Max Booth,
Thank you.
coming up next, more on where the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh could take the country politically, and when it comes to some of the most bitterly contested laws in the land, all the angles still ahead on that. And later, what the attorneys for Christine Blasey Ford tell us their client has to say tonight about the latest developments, including whether Justice Kavanaugh should be impeached. The answer might surprise you ahead.
A little too quiet in here, it gives me the willies. Bad Times at the El Royale is the best thriller in years. Daring and original. 4 stars.
You do have something, don't you?
Bad Times at the El Royale, rated R, October 12th.
Yes, we are twins. When I wanted Ancestry, I just put in the name of my parents and my grandparents. And I was getting all these leads, and I was going back generation after generation. You start to see documents, and you see signatures of people that you've never met. I mean, you don't know these people, but you feel like you do. You get connected to them. I wish that I could get into a time machine and go back 100 years, 200 years, and just meet these people. Being on Ancestry, it just made me feel like I belong somewhere.
Discover your story. Start searching for free now at Ancestry.com.
I even built my own historic trading model. And you're still not sure if you want to make the trade?
Exactly.
All right, call TD Ameritrade's trade desk. They can help gut check your strategies and answer all your toughest questions.
Call for a strategy gut check with TD Ameritrade.
So the final vote is set for tomorrow, if all goes as expected. Brett Kavanaugh will be confirmed to the Supreme Court. Now, as you've seen from Senator Lisa Murkowski's remarks tonight at the Senate floor, getting to this point is neither simple nor easy, and the after effects may be unfolding in the polls in just a few weeks and perhaps even for years to come. In a moment, more on the legal ramifications, but first, how we got here, what happens tomorrow.
Jerry, did you shut the windows, blinds, or curtains?
So what are the next steps? Where do things
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least on the technical side of things, right now the Senate's in the middle of 30 hours of debate. They will have the final vote, and it's obviously very clear that they have the votes. The broader question, though, of where the Senate goes from here, where the institutions go from here, where the Supreme Court goes from here, where this conversation goes from here, is an open question. Anderson, just a short while ago, I was asking this very question to a senior GOP aide who said, quote, it's only going to get worse. I think that's the feeling right now, is that this wasn't rock bottom, like this person, Senator Susan Collins, said she hoped it was. This wasn't a moment where, as the person said, Lisa Murkowski, perhaps members take a step back and say, perhaps there's a better way to go from here. This will likely only escalate in the weeks and months ahead. Obviously, we're in the middle of a midterm year right now. We're just a month away from the election. So expect the fights to continue. Expect nobody to cool off. In fact, expect things to heat up is basically my understanding at this point, Anderson.
And it had been reported that Senator Collins was undecided through this entire process. Do we know the details of sort of how she got to yes?
So it's really interesting, Anderson. For the last couple of weeks before these sexual assault allegations came out, I was hearing from people that were in discussions with Senator Collins who kept telling me she is solid on Brett Kavanaugh. She likes him very much. She is very confident and assuaged the concerns regarding his record. What Senator Collins did on the floor today is lay out exactly why in detail as it related to his judicial record on Roe versus Wade, on health care, on pre-existing conditions, almost in detail. That changed, or at least stopped, when the sexual assault allegations came out. But the threshold, based on how she felt about his record, was so high that she basically laid out that she needed to see a lot to convince her otherwise. That threshold was not met. Now, behind the scenes, Anderson, over the course of the last 24 hours, she went through the FBI supplementary background check, the entire thing, read through it, talked to people, debated with staff, I'm told. But in the end, she was not only comfortable with the record, she was comfortable with the man, a man who she talked personally with one-on-one several times.
And Senator Joe Manchin, who's obviously a little Democratic and voted in favor of Kavanaugh, what are you learning about his process?
You know, everybody looks at the politics, and they're very obvious. President Trump won West Virginia in 2016 by a significant margin. Joe Manchin has been looking at that and eyeing that over the course of pretty much the entire term of Congress. But I think the other element here is Joe Manchin also has constituents that are very supportive of Brett Kavanaugh based on the limited polling we have from that point. And he was hearing from them on a regular basis. Now, I will note, when he was on Capitol Hill, he was hearing from sexual assault survivors, from protesters. And those are the types of moments that often have an impact on senators. Just take a look at Senator Jeff Flake. But in the end, particularly given that he wasn't going to end up being the deciding vote, and given that he has opened up a lead in his race, and this might actually lock up his re-election, it was a decision that he decided to go with yes answer.
All right, well, thanks. More now on where Justice Kavanaugh might take the course. Susan Collins seems to suggest today that when it comes to issues like abortion rights, nothing much will change.
To my knowledge, Judge Kavanaugh is the first Supreme Court nominee to express the view that precedent is not merely a practice and tradition, but rooted in Article 3 of our Constitution itself. He believes that precedent is not just a judicial policy, it is constitutionally dictated to pay attention and pay heed to rules of precedent. In other words, precedent isn't a goal or an aspiration. It is a constitutional tenet that has to be followed except in the most extraordinary circumstances.
Senator Collins explained why she believes that Justice Kavanaugh would not revisit Roe v. Wade, of course, landmark ruling on abortion. Two views on that now. Joining CNN Chief Legal Analyst Jeffrey Toobin has written extensively about the court, and Carrie Severino, Chief Counsel and Policy Director of the Judicial Crisis Network, which supports Judge Kavanaugh. Jeff, when you hear Susan Collins saying he doesn't just believe this precedent, that he believes this is rooted in Article 3 of the Constitution, and therefore Roe v. Wade essentially is safe.
She's in absolute dreamland. First of all, lots of justices have said that the precedent is rooted in the Constitution as well as tradition, as well as in stare decisis. But even if that's true, they still overturn precedents. I mean, just this year, they overturned a precedent almost exactly as old as Roe v. Wade involving labor law. They overturned precedents. You know, President Trump said he was going to appoint justices who would overturn Roe v. Wade. What I think he meant when he said that was, I think he's going to overturn justices that are going to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's what he's done with Gorsuch. That's what he's done with Kavanaugh. And I don't understand why conservatives can't take yes for an answer.
Gary, is Jeff right? I mean, do you expect Roe v. Wade will be undone under, whether it's under states' rights and not by a landmark case overturning precedent?
Oh, well, I think Jeff's certainly right on one thing, is that all Supreme Court justices overturn precedents at one time or another. You've got that simply, no justice thinks every precedent is there for eternity. However, I think it's impossible to know at this point what Judge Kavanaugh would do. He was in the lower court before. You don't have his practice of precedent. And really, I think the key fifth vote to look at here, and is going to be for this coming term and going forward, is Chief Justice Roberts. And his views on precedent, I think, do clearly show that he's not someone who wants to go around willingly overturning things. So I think he's the person who's even closer.
Wasn't Roberts part of the majority that overturned that labor law case this year?
Oh, sure, and wouldn't you love them all to overturn Citizens United tomorrow? It's easy to say, well, as I'm saying, everyone overturns precedent at one time or another. It's trying to figure out where are those balances struck in different cases. So there's the liberal justices overturn it sometimes too.
The reason why the Federal Society compiled this list from whom the president chose is because they have an agenda. They have, Kerry mentioned Citizens United. Citizens United is going to be expanded. Citizens United and related cases are the reason why your organization can spend millions and millions of dollars to support Judge Kavanaugh, and you never talk about where your money came from, right? Isn't that right?
We have the same policy that groups like the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, the NAACP have. So for the same reason, we protect.
I want to stop running. Okay, finally.
The Federal Society has a monolithic view on that, on abortion, and any other issue. You clearly have not attended any of their meetings. It is a very broad-based group. I would challenge you to come to some of their debates.
I've been to, but look, it's about affirmative action. It's about Citizens United. It's about gay rights. It's about whether gay people can buy wedding cakes, can go to restaurants, can go to hotels. This is a whole agenda that is now laid out before with 5 conservatives in the majority. Is that right, Kerry? Come on. You've won. Why aren't you celebrating?
Look, what we are looking for is a judge who's going to be faithful to the Constitution, the text of the law, not specific policy goals. I know that's how a lot of people like to look at the court, particularly from the left. The judges aren't there to be a fairy godmother to give you the wishes you want. So that means if there is a law that's passed by a Democratic Congress and signed by a Democratic president, Judge Kavanaugh, and it would be supporting him 100%, is going to apply that law as it's written, not try to mess with it, not try to make it, massage it to make it how he wants. That puts a backward to the people and their representatives.
Do you think President Trump then has been duped into getting Judge Kavanaugh with the belief that he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade?
I don't know if the president even thinks he knows that, because he said he specifically didn't ask him about that. What we know is it takes 5 votes to do anything in the Supreme Court, and as I said before, I think Chief Justice Roberts is the swing vote on this. This is, we're going back to the same scaremongering we saw with Justice Kennedy, with Justice Souter, with Justice O'Connor. They had pins saying, if Souter is confirmed, women will die. He voted to uphold Roe v. Wade. The idea that we can predict going forward, for better or worse, how someone could do
it's amazing to me. I'm sorry.
I don't feel like I know any more than you know. You seem much more confident than I do.
It's a total mystery to you. I mean, all these people like Kerry, who have devoted their lives to overturning Roe v. Wade, suddenly are shocked and just mystified about whether their candidate will do what they have devoted their lives to trying to accomplish. Come on, Kerry. I mean, seriously, this is why you and many other conservatives have been in the conservative movement, because you want to end legal abortion in America, among other priorities. And now you've got the 5 justices you want. Why can't you just acknowledge that?
I have no idea what will happen. Look, a lot of people went into the Obamacare case thinking they knew how that was going to come out. I don't think you can predict these things. And it's going to depend on exactly.
So why devote millions of dollars to get this person on?
Look, we're not devoting millions of dollars with the goal of overturning Roe v. Wade. We're devoting the time and the effort to help support nominees who are going to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. It's not about a laundry list. It's about trying to get people who are going to be faithful to the Constitution. So that doesn't always line up with my policy goals. There's a lot of cases where the law is, I'm like, I feel like the law should be a different way, but I also at the same time can hope that I have a judge.
Abortion rights and the Constitution are clear, and you believe that this judge, but when you say you're looking for judges who uphold the Constitution, you believe the right to abortion is not in privacy rights, or it's not in the Constitution.
Well, that's frankly something that I think Lawrence tried. Obama's
you can just say yes or no.
The idea that the legal grounding of Roe versus Wade isn't well constitutionally grounded is something shared by people, including very liberal legal scholars. So that is not unique to me, as I said. Lawrence tried and many others.
So that would be a yes. Okay.
So I just think it's important not to focus on these abstractions like Kerry is talking about, like rule of law, and let's talk about issues that are going to be before the court. Let's talk about abortion, affirmative action, campaign finance, gay rights. All of those are going to go in a very different direction because Anthony Kennedy is gone and Brett Kavanaugh will be there. That's why you got involved in politics, Carrie. You're winning. I don't see why you shouldn't just straight out acknowledge.
I'm very happy to have Kavanaugh on the court. I'll acknowledge that all day long. I think he faithful to the Constitution.
As well. Next, a lot more including a look at what may be President Trump's most successful week in office, from record low unemployment numbers today to 49-year low to his clear-cut victory, appointing the Supreme Court nominees, on the second president to get a second Supreme Court nominee confirmed in his first 2 years. We'll look at what this week means for the midterm elections. Next month, I'll talk to Dan Bash to get back to that.
How did the same three guys get away with all that?
Well, they haven't gotten away with it. They just haven't been caught yet. Skip on it.
What did you say you do?
Well, that's a secret.
And why is that?
He spent his whole life locked up. 16 successful escapes.
You think you can catch him?
I'd love to start the cuffs on myself. I hope I get the chance.
You seem like a nice enough
He
fellow.
was very polite. He was also Sergeant Major. The Old Man and the Gun, rated PG-13, now playing in select theaters.
This place isn't for me.
The last place was pretty good.
I don't like this whole thing.
I think we can do better. Change is hard. Try to keep open mind. Come on, Dad.
This is for me, son?
Principal, we can help you plan for that.
Very few could be the first to do something. To earn a place amongst the greatest moments in all of history. To become a legend. A symbol of excellence. Very few can be a part of something that changed the world forever. And for the last half century, only one has made every second count. Omega Speedmaster. First Man, only in theaters October 12th, rated PG-13.
We should be united. One faith, one Lord, one King.
Huh?
Versailles, the final season, premieres tomorrow at 10, only on Ovation, Channel 274.
I don't know what that is.
And you need your logo to be perfect? You need certainty. At 4imprint, we give you the ultimate guarantee. Because when something has your logo on it, it matters. To you, your customers, your coworkers, and to us. Our wide selection always changes to keep up with the latest trends. But there is one thing we deliver that's timeless. Certainty. Explore thousands of promotional products at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain.
Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown, the final episodes. New episodes Sundays at 9 on CNN.
Today was a big win for President Trump. Tomorrow's likely successful vote on Judge Kavanaugh will mean his second conservative nominee elevated to the Supreme Court. On top of that, today's new unemployment numbers mean even more economic good news for the country. The unemployment level at a 49-year low. So with the midterms looming in just about a month, and in the wake of the Kavanaugh nomination battle, we wanted to look at what the political landscape looks like ahead. Here now with us is Dan Bash, and joined by former senior advisor to President Obama, David Axelrod. So obviously, David, a good day, you could argue a very good week for President Trump and Republicans. Do you think it will remain a flashpoint as the Senate and House races heat up over these final few weeks, the Supreme Court battle?
Well, first of all, there's no doubt that he's mounted up a series of wins here, and that has to be good from their standpoint right now. The question is what the durability of this. In the short run, you talk to Republicans, and then I talk to Democrats as well, who believe that the Kavanaugh fight has actually stoked up interest, particularly in these red states where they're trying to unseat Democratic senators, and they're heartened by that. It may have the reverse effect in some of these suburban districts where they're hoping to save Republican congressmen and where the electorate is much less inclined to be supportive of Kavanaugh. But the question is, where are we gonna be in 4.5 weeks? You, of all people, Anderson, know, doing a nightly show, that 4.5 weeks in the world of Donald Trump is an eternity. And there could be a lot of turns in the road between now and then. And it could be that after winning this fight over Kavanaugh, that the winners are satisfied and the losers who are on the other side of this issue are more aroused to come out to the polls. So I think in the short run, big week for the president. In the long run, 4.5 weeks is an eternity.
Yeah, I mean, to David's point, it does seem like each side thinks their base, Democrats and Republicans, thinks their base is going to be energized by the Kavanaugh battle.
And they're both right. The difference is that for the Democrats, they were already crazy energized. And so, this will take them up to an 11, but they were pretty close to 11 already. As for the Republicans, they've been complacent. That has been a worry in every conversation that I've had with Republican strategists and frankly even candidates going into the November elections. And the anger, although this is a win, a Republican win, there is still real anger that is being stoked by the president, by the Republican leadership at the process, and specific language targeting the same voters who came out for Donald Trump in 2016, men should be scared, they should be fearful, those kinds of things, specifically aimed at getting Republicans out the door and to the polls because of concern that they weren't going to do that.
Dave, do you see this as a winning issue for Democrats, particularly senators? In the weeks ahead, retaking the Senate, obviously a steep climb for them. Most of the seats, up the cycle lean Republican. Democrats have to be careful about how much they campaign on the Supreme Court issue?
Yeah, I'm not sure that these Democratic senators will be campaigning on the Supreme Court issue in these red states.
Gas.
I think they were actually feeling pretty good about the way things were trending before this Kavanaugh fight, because they were stressing issues like health care, which was really resonant with voters. I think they'd love to be able to go back to that, and they would like this issue to recede and go back to those winning issues that had them in a relatively good position before all this started.
Wrong way. My God, I hate my game. Bye, guys.